Today we continue with business AS level, chapter 5, stakeholders in a business. When we talk about stakeholders, stakeholders are individuals, group that have interest in the activity of a business. So it simply means they are directly or indirectly linked with the business. So whatever happens, whatever decisions the business makes, it affects them directly or indirectly. So we'll go down to talk about them, then I explain further. Business stakeholders. The main stakeholders of the business are, we have the owners of the business, maybe shareholders in a limited company. We have the customers, we have the suppliers, we have employees, including the manager and their families. We have the local communities, we have government and government agencies, and we have special interest groups such as the pressure groups. Then we have the lenders, which are the financial institutions. So we're going to go through the stakeholders' roles, rights, and responsibilities. So we're going to start with customers. About customers. Customers are the kingpin of every business. So what is their interest? What is their rights? What are their roles? What are their rights and responsibilities as a stakeholder? For customers, to purchase goods and services. So customers are, like I said earlier, they are the kingpin of every business. So they buy what we sell. They buy what businesses sell. So that means they purchase goods or services. That is one of their roles, which is their responsibility to provide revenue from sales, which allows the business to function and expand. Another role of a customer is to provide revenue for businesses, because as soon as they buy, there's always going to be an exchange between the seller and the buyer. So the exchange that comes between the buyer and the seller is it's a form of money. So the business will give out goods or services in exchange for money. So the type of money that comes in to a business as a result of selling is called revenue. So that means revenue is being provided by the customers, which allows the business to expand and function well. So what are the rights of customers? Number one, to receive goods and services that meet local laws regarding health and safety, design, and performance. So one of their rights is to receive goods that have quality, that meets up with legal requirements in terms of health and safety, and also the performance of the product. So whichever product they buy, they must enjoy the value for the money. Two, to be offered replacements, repairs, or compensation in the event of failure of the product or service to at least the minimum level laid down by law. So in case whatever they buy becomes faulty or there's damage as a result of buying, they must be compensated. It is also part of their rights to be compensated as customers. And what are their responsibilities, which might not necessarily be legally binding? One, to be honest, to pay for goods bought or service received when requested. As customers, one of their responsibilities is to be honest, and they must also pay for whatever they bought or whatever they have purchased. They must not steal. And lastly, not to make false claims about poor service, underperforming goods, or failed items. They must not lie. They must not make false claims to put businesses into distress. So these are the roles, the rights, and the responsibility of customers. Remember, I said customers are the kingpin of every business. Their roles are to purchase goods and services, and also to provide revenue, which is in terms of exchange for whatever they purchase. Their rights, businesses must provide them with goods and services that meet up with the health and safety laws. Businesses must provide them or produce goods and services that has quality. Businesses must provide or produce goods that, or they must be able to provide or compensate them whenever the goods become faulty or whenever the services are poor. And their responsibilities are not to steal, not to make false claims, and to be honest, so that in terms of making the payment as at when due. So these are the roles, the rights, and responsibility of customers as a stakeholder. So the next one is suppliers. I want to talk about suppliers. It is a form of business-to-business situation. So suppliers are the ones that provide or supply raw materials or goods that businesses are able to sell. So what are their rights? We'll start with their roles. What are their roles? One, to supply goods and services to allow the business to offer its products to its own customers. suppliers must provide or supply goods and services in abundant quality, in abundant quantity, so that businesses will be able to sell to their customers. Then what is their rights? To be paid on time as stated in the service agreement between the business and suppliers. Businesses must pay them as at when due, based on the agreement they have when the invoice was issued. Then, what are their responsibilities as suppliers? To supply goods and services ordered by the business in the time and condition laid down by the purchase contract or supplier service agreement. Suppliers also have to be responsible by ensuring that they provide or produce or supply goods as at when due in terms of quantity and time that is being agreed upon. So that takes us to employees. I want to talk about employees. We're talking about the workers. What are their roles? What are their rights? And what are their responsibilities as a stakeholder? So we're going to start with the roles of employees. To provide manual and other labor services to the business in accordance with the employment contract to allow goods and services to be provided to customers. As soon as an employee is being employed, it is important. There's always what we call terms of contract, that means employment contract, which binds both the employee and the employer. So on the side of the employee must provide manual or other labor services, mental or physical, that will allow the business to be able to serve to its customers. And what are their rights? To be offered the employment contract that meets legal standards. Example, minimum wage rate. Employees must offer a contract that meets up with the standards according to the law, which will stipulate the amount of money they have to pay, they have to get, the conditions of employment, and the rest. All this must be part of the legal framework. 2, to be treated and paid in the ways described in the employment contract. Whatever has been agreed upon by both employer and employee, the employer must not deviate from it. So which simply means employees must be treated based on the terms of agreement. And the last one, in most countries, to be allowed to join the trade union if desired. Employees have the right to join any trade union if they desire. So employers must not stop them from joining any trade union, because trade union helps to influence employers' decision. So what are their responsibilities as employees? They have to be honest. That means they have to do things the right way to meet the conditions and requirements of the employment contract. They must not also deviate from the terms and conditions of the contract. They must cooperate with management in terms of whatever request or reasonable request that has been made. Also, they have to observe ethical code of conduct. So these are the rights, these are the roles, the rights and responsibilities of employees as a stakeholder. So in the next class, we're going to talk about, continuously we're going to talk about the local government, the local community, and the rest. So the next one is local community. For local community, we're talking about, for the local community, what are their roles? They must provide the labor services required by the business. That means whatever form of service they want to provide, they must provide it to the business according to how the business wants it. What are their rights? To be consulted about major changes that affect it. Example given, expansion plans or changing methods of production. Community needs to know whenever the business is making changes to its operation so that it will not affect the community. And what are their responsibilities? They have to cooperate with the business where it is reasonable to do so on expansion and other plans. They also have to cooperate with the business. Then the local government. Local government, we're talking about the community, the local community, or the municipality, used in some countries. The local community must provide, these are their rules, they must provide local services and infrastructure to the business to allow it to operate, produce, and sell within legal limits. The local government must provide infrastructure, must put in place things that will allow the legal framework that will allow the business to operate. Then what are the rights of local government? Not to have the community lives badly affected by the business activity. They must ensure that the businesses do not negatively impact or cause negative, not cause any negative externality to the local community. And what are their responsibilities as a local government? To meet reasonable requests from the business for local services such as public transport for employees and waste disposal. So whatever that is within the reach of the local community, local government, they must be able to provide it to the business. Now, the government as a whole, what are their roles? They must pass laws that restrain many aspects of business activity. So the government must ensure that they pass laws that will ensure safety, that will ensure things are done the right way by the businesses. They must provide law and order and economic stability to allow business activity to take place. They must also provide laws that will ensure smooth running of businesses. Then what are their rights as governments? To expect business to meet all legal constraints, such as producing only legal goods and to pay taxes on time. As governments, it is expected of businesses to pay taxes, and it is expected of businesses to work within the legal framework. That means providing or producing goods and services in a legal way. So what are their responsibilities as a stakeholder to the business? They must treat businesses equally under the law. That means whatever, there must be equality in terms of the laws they make to prevent unfair competition that could damage chances of business survival. They must ensure that businesses do not, they must ensure that there's competition within the industry. They must come up with competitive policies to establish goods and trading links with other countries to allow international trade. They must ensure that they are able to come up with laws that will make international trade possible. That means they must ensure that there's trade relationship between the country and the rest of the world. Now to the lenders. When we talk about the lenders, we're talking about the financial institutions. What are their roles as stakeholders? To provide finance to the business in different forms, which means they must ensure that they are able to provide money for businesses. Then, what are their rights? To be repaid on the agreed date. They must be paid as at when due. To be paid finance charges, that is interest on loan. They must also be able to get their interest on loans when giving out to borrowers. Then what are their rights? What are their responsibilities as lenders? To provide the agreed amount of finance on the agreed date for the agreed time period. They must ensure that borrowers are able to get their loans as at when due, the same amount of money, and at agreed period of time. Now to the managers. Who are the managers? When we talk about managers, we're talking about those that are in charge of the day-to-day running of the business. What are their roles as managers, as stakeholders? To control, to command, and direct resources. So they are in charge of the day-to-day running of the business. Then, what are their rights as managers? To have contract of employment, to have sufficient authority to fulfill their roles. They must be given all the necessary support to carry out their activities, and also they must also be issued a contract of employment. Then what are their responsibilities? To report to stakeholders to act legally and ethically. So because they are managers, they are in charge of the day-to-day running of the business, they must ensure that they give reports to the necessary stakeholders within the business. And that takes us to the owners or the shareholders. What are their roles? They provide finance. That means through maybe shares or investments. They are the ones that put in capital to the business. They inject money into the business. What are their rights? To receive a share of profit, to receive accurate reports on business performance. So they must be given dividends or return on their investment. Then what are their responsibilities as shareholders? To set targets for managers. That means whatever has to be achieved, they must communicate it with the managers, and they provide managers with adequate resources and time to meet the targets. So these are different stakeholders in the business, and their roles, responsibilities, and rights as stakeholders. I'll be right back. So we'll continue with business. We're going to the importance and influence of stakeholders on business activity. So we're talking about business activity. We're simply talking about what the business is involved in terms of its operation. So what are the impacts of business decisions on stakeholders and their reactions? So go down to see what the impacts are. Business decision, okay? A business might make a decision to build a new factory or expand businesses. So what are the impacts of this to employees, and what are the reactions of employees? The impacts: more job opportunities for the business, new working methods, and more job opportunities, because as soon as the expansion takes place, it provides job opportunity for new employees. New working methods in this factory might require new skills. And also, if there's a new working method, it means what employees must have the skills required to be able to perform that function. Then what are the reactions? More potential employees seeking a job, so more people would be looking for a job. And also the trade unions might demand higher pay for more skilled workers. So also the trade union might demand for more pay for their members. Then for the local community, what are the impacts of building a new factory in the local community? So more jobs for local residents and increased spending in other local businesses. So when a new factory is being built or there is an expansion in the business, more jobs will be available for the locals. And also disruption caused by increased traffic and pollution and loss of sites for amenity use. So in the course of building a new factory, it means there will be loss of green land or green field, and also there might be pollution and traffic congestion in the course of building the factory. Then the impact on customers. Greater efficiency might result in lower prices. Based on the fact that the business is expanding, and the expansion might bring about efficiency and reduction in cost of production, and this might reduce the price of products. Also, will business focus be on quantity, not quality? So businesses will be able to provide more goods and services, and that means more choices for customers. So the reaction of customers: they might want to buy more products if prices are lower for the same quality. Therefore, the reaction of community: they will seek to refuse planning permissions, ban large trucks, organize petition or boycott. If they figure out that the impact is bringing about a negative externality. Now, another decision could be integration. Let's talk about horizontal integration, which means integration at the same level of production. So the impact on employees. Combined business is more secure and more career promotion opportunities. If the business is combined, it becomes bigger and better, and that might save employees' job. 2, rationalization may occur to avoid waste and cut cost. Job might be lost. Employees might lose their job because there might be surplus to requirements. Then what are the reactions of employees on this situation? They might go on strike if jobs are under threat. Then we go to the local community. What are the impacts of the local community? What are the impacts on local community whenever there is horizontal integration? If business expansion is on the existing site, local jobs and income might increase. If the expansion is done within the same site, it might bring about more income and more jobs to the local community. Rationalization of duplicate premises might lead to closures and job losses. But if there is a duplication of jobs or there is duplication of premises, they might be shut down, and as a result of that, local communities might lose their jobs. Then the reaction: they might encourage government to ban the takeover if rationalization is threatened. So the local community might react by encouraging government or influencing government to ban the takeover. Then to the customers. Economies of scale could lead to lower prices. Due to expansion, average cost of production might fall. As a result of that, customers might be able to buy at affordable prices. Reduced competition and choices could have the opposite effect and might result in higher prices. If the expansion brings about reduction in output or reduction in supply, this might bring about an increase in price, which might affect customers' purchases or purchasing power. The reaction of customers. They might choose to boycott if prices are raised due to less competition. They might choose to not buy the product. Another business decision could be to purchase the purchase of IT-controlled automated machines. If the business is trying to become more, technologically advanced, what are the impacts on employees? Training and promotion opportunities might be offered. Employers might offer to train their employees so that they can be able to use the new equipment or technology. Fewer untrained workers required. Those unable to learn new skills may be made redundant. Some workers might be made surplus to requirements if they are unable to unlearn or relearn and relearn. Then what are the reactions of employees in such situation? Industrial actions by workers to be made redundant. Workers that are made redundant might, form an industrial action like strike. Then to the local community, what are the impacts of the purchase of IT-controlled automated machines to the local community? Local suppliers of IT service will benefit from increased orders, which means with information technology, that might increase their orders. Only specially skilled workers needed and fewer unskilled jobs. So in the local community, the locals, the ones that are specialists are the ones that would enjoy the benefit of investment in IT. Then the reaction, the local community might demand training programs for unskilled employees, unskilled, unemployed. Then the impacts on customers, more efficient and flexible production methods resulting in improved quality and more product variety. With technological advancement, it brings about efficiency, and if there's efficiency, it might also lead to production of variety of goods and services, so which increases customer choices. IT reliability problems could cause supply delays. If there are problems with information technology, this might bring about delays to their supply, and that might not go well with customers. Reaction of customers, increased demand if product quality is high. Customers might increase their demand if the quality is increasing. So that takes us to business accountabilities to stakeholders and how stakeholders aims impact business decisions. So we start with the responsibility to customers. In a world of increasing free trade and international competition, it is essential to satisfy customers' demands in order to stay in business in the long term. Decisions about quality, design, durability, and customer service should consider the customer's aims for well-made, attractive goods that perform as intended, all at reasonable prices. Businesses also have responsibility to customers not to break the law concerning consumer protection, accurate advertising, avoiding taking advantage of vulnerable customers, such as elderly, and not using high-pressure selling tactics, other policies of responsible businesses. So the benefit of accepting these responsibilities include customer loyalty, repeat purchase, good publicity, when customers give words of mouth recommendation to others, and good customer feedback, which helps to improve further goods and services. So the responsibilities of businesses to customers. Businesses must ensure that they are able to satisfy their customers in terms of the demand. They must ensure that they produce goods or services with quality, with design, and that has a long lifespan. If not, customers might choose to buy elsewhere. Businesses must avoid taking advantage of vulnerable customers also. And the reward for this is customer loyalty. Customers will always come back to buy. Customers will make referrals because the business has done the right thing. And good customer feedback might give a better reputation to the business. So if the business if the business is responsible to customers, the reward is also available to them. Responsibility to suppliers. The quality of a product is only as good as the supplies that the business purchases. If these are of poor quality or frequently late, then the same problem will exist with the finished product, and this will not satisfy customer requirements. Good, reliable suppliers must be found and given clear guidance on what is required. In return, the purchasing department should take decisions that satisfy suppliers' aims and require in return aims and Requirements such as prompt payments, the placing of regular orders, and the offer of long-term contracts. The benefit of accepting these responsibilities include supplier loyalty, the likelihood of securing reasonable credit terms, and preparedness to meet deadlines and special order requests. Responsibilities to suppliers. Suppliers must provide quality products, and if they are able to provide quality products at reliable time, promptly, the reward is also there because the businesses will be able to buy, will continuously buy from them because they allow the customers to also get their products as at when due. And this will also allow the businesses to always pay on time to suppliers. Responsibility to employees. All countries have some laws that outline business responsibilities to workers. These laws are stricter in some countries than others. Apart from not breaking these laws, do businesses have other responsibilities to employees? Many people think they do. Businesses' decisions that reflect the aims of employees include providing training opportunities and job security, paying rates above minimum wage, offering good working conditions, and involving employees in some of the decision making. The benefit of accepting these responsibilities include employee loyalty, low labor turnover, ease of recruiting good workers, employee suggestions for improving efficiency, and customer service, which might improve motivation and more effective communication. If employers accept the responsibility to their employees, there will be employees. And what are those responsibilities to employees? Paying them above the minimum wage, providing them with training, ensuring that there's conducive and working environment for employees. If all these are done, the benefits are there will be employee loyalty, there will be low labor turnover, which means workers will not be changed. Workers will not be leaving the company every now and then. And also, they will be able to provide suggestions that will improve the operations of the business. So go to the responsibilities to local community. Businesses that fail to meet responsibility to the local community may experience serious problems with opposition to plans or charges to the use of premises. The stakeholder concept assumes that business will meet responsibility to the local community. Example of business decisions that focus on the aims of local community include offering secure employment so that there is less local fear of job losses, using local supplies where possible to generate more income, reducing the transport impact of the business, and keeping other adverse environmental effects to a minimum. The benefit of accepting this responsibility include local councils being more likely to give planning permission to expand the business and giving contracts only to businesses with a record of community involvement. Also, local communities will be more likely to accept some of the negative effects caused by business operations if they provide financial support for community groups and projects such as children's playground. Businesses must also be responsible to local community. And in terms of what? In terms of providing job opportunity for the locals, ensuring that the local suppliers are involved in their supplies, which means the local businesses will be able to generate more revenue. In return for accepting this responsibility, it means local councils or the local community will be able to accept them, even with negative externalities, and be able to give them local permission for expansion. So now we go to responsibilities to government. Clearly, all businesses should meet their legal responsibility as defined by government legislation. In addition, businesses should decide to pay taxes on time, complete government statistical and other forms accurately, and where possible, seek export markets. The foreign currency earned by exports allow a country to pay for important imports of food, material, new technology, and so on. So businesses must ensure that they meet up with legal requirements, and they must always ensure that whatever they produce or provide are within the legal framework provided by the government. So what are the benefits of accepting these responsibilities? One, developing good relationship with government, so planning permissions for future expansion projects is more likely to happen. If businesses accept these responsibilities to government, it simply means government would always permit them for future expansion. Two, more likely to receive valuable government contracts. They will also be able, government will be able to give them contract because government will also be loyal to them. Request for subsidies to expand business is more likely to win government approval. Government might, as a result of that, grant them subsidies. And also, government might also be able to give them license to operate on a larger society, on a wider scale. So that takes us to the conflict arising from different stakeholders. According to traditional shareholder concept, attempt to meet obligations to other stakeholders will conflict with the business legal duty to its stakeholders, to its shareholders. Any non-essential cost will reduce profits, so the argument goes. Taking the stakeholders approach, the objective of different groups may be satisfied in ways that also result in benefits to shareholders in the long term. However, conflict might still arise between the objective of these different stakeholders groups. How do businesses deal with this conflict of stakeholders' aims? A compromise is often the answer. Perhaps a factory will close in stages rather than immediately to allow workers time to find other jobs. Even though business costs will fall more slowly, plans to build a new chemical plant may have to be adapted to move the main site away from a housing estate to protect the local community. Even though the new sites might be more expensive, the introduction of 24 hours flight at an airport to benefit the airlines and passengers may only be accepted if local residents are offered sound installation in their homes paid for by the airport or airlines. Clearly, senior management must establish its priorities in this situation, which are the most important stakeholders, which are the most important stakeholders in each case. What will be the extra cost of meeting the needs of each stakeholder group? Will bad publicity resulting from the failure to meet the interests of one group lead to lost revenue? Perhaps lost revenue will be greater than the cost of saving of not satisfying this group. Taking such difficult decisions, which are based on weighing up the conflicting interests of these groups, is one of the reasons why managers and directors are often paid more than employees. So, simply, what they are trying to let us understand is this. There's always going to be conflict of interest when it comes to making decisions by businesses because there are different stakeholders, and each stakeholder has their own differences, their own interests. That means for every decision made, it simply means there's always going to be a compromise. So how do we go about this compromise? That is, how do we go about this compromise? Businesses go about this compromise by ensuring that they employ managers and directors that are suitable in making decisions. And that's why they are highly rewarded to ensure that they understand that at any point in time, the most important stakeholders before making decisions. So what are the impact on stakeholders of changing business objectives? I'll be right back. Welcome back. So the final notes on stakeholders are the impact on stakeholders of changing business objectives. When we're talking about business objectives, we are simply talking about what the business is aiming towards to achieve at a specific period of time. And remember, when we talk about business objectives, they must always be smart, they must be specific, they must be measurable, they must be agreed upon, they must be agreed upon, and it must, it must be attainable, and it must have a specific period of time. So what the dynamic business environment often means that directors or senior managers might be forced to change corporate objectives. When this happens, the impact on stakeholders can be significant. Two examples illustrate this. Volkswagen objective to be world leader in diesel engines for cars and vans had to be changed when the Dieselgate scandal broke. This involved Volkswagen deliberately cheating emissions control regulations. The company is now focused on being the world's leading manufacturer of electric cars, but this has required massive investment and the closure of some diesel engine factories. So, when objective change, it simply means the point about this is that when objective changes, it affects different stakeholders in different forms. So social and environmental change is one of the partnership. So basically, what we're just trying to understand is that different stakeholder groups will be affected in different ways by these changes in objectives. Employees might lose their jobs, customers might have less choices to make, lenders might not be assured, might not be certain that they're going to be able to get their, their refund or interest to be paid back. Investors might not be sure that they're going to be able to get the reward on their investment. So whatever the case might be, whichever decision that is being made by the business will directly or indirectly affect stakeholders. And that is why they are even called stakeholders. So that ends stakeholders in businesses. Thank you.